Hey, breadwinners, welcome back to the show. I got a special guest for you today. Sharell Weeams is a business growth and sales strategist who helps experts go from booked and burnt out to leverage and liberated by focusing on one of two things: turning your one-on-one service into a scalable group program and designing a signature sales system to convert clients by the dozens. Sharell has been featured in Forbes, NBC, DFW, and Upworthy. Her and I had the experience of being in a mastermind together where I got to get so many insights from her, and it was a great experience, and we continued the friendship beyond. So I'm really excited to have her on the show today to share her amazing journey as a business owner and also the challenges that she has been able to overcome in order to put heart back into her business. So without further ado, let's jump into today's interview.
Welcome to the Breadwinning Women podcast. I'm Jamila Payne, your host. I built my career as a successful marketing executive, managing national and international campaigns. Now I run an online training company called Daily Success Routine that teaches women to set up systems and processes to scale without adding more to their schedule. If you're ready to streamline your operations, knock out the chaos, and build a dream team so that you can become a bread-winning business owner, then turn up the volume and let's dig in.
We are ready for a treat today. I have a very special guest with us today, Sharell Weeams, who's a friend, and she's going to really share her journey and story as an entrepreneur. So welcome to the Breadwinning Women podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. I appreciate you inviting me to, come and talk to you and a little bit about my journey and share it with your audience as well. And I hope they get some value out of our conversation today.
I already know they will. So just get ready, get your notebooks, papers, and get ready to get your whole life together in this episode. So let's just go back and talk about your business. We've both been growing businesses through a pandemic and all kinds of craziness. And so let's just go back to your business. Let's say, a year and a half ago. What was your life like in running your company? Tell the audience more about what you do and what that looked like.
Sure, absolutely. So, I'm a business growth sales strategist. And so I work with other, coaches, consultants, and online service providers to help them, similar audience as you, to kind of help them, launch and scale their business. And so around a little bit, I'll just say at the start of the pandemic, as the pandemic started, I was actually in the process of launching a brand new, flagship group program. And so I got that launched in May 2020. I kind of started doing the pre-launch right around March 2020, when the pandemic started. And then I officially kind of launched that program in May 2020 and brought in kind of my first cohort of students that I was working with. And from there, I was launching about every 6 to 8 weeks. To enroll, new clients into that group program. And everything was, growing very well. We were able to take that brand new, I call it wasn't necessarily a brand new, I call it a brand new program, but it was really kind of like version 3.0 of it went from like the do-it-yourself course to no, people need more of that, to like, let me reshift it. And that was like the 2.0 or 3.0 version of this program that I had put out. And it was just going very well, doing those launches every 6 to 8 weeks, brought a lot of clients through that program, got a lot of great testimonials, took that program from zero to over $275,000 in like less than 12 months. So it did, really, really well. And it was, I was planning for my next launch, whenever, I kind of faced my health crisis, but, that's kind of how the previous year had been going.
Yeah, and not only that, you were active with other things too. Outside of growing that program, you had just started the process of going through coach certification, right?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up too. Yes. Yeah, so I went through certification as a mindset or life coach through the life coach school. And I did that for two reasons. One, that program literally changed my life. Like, had it not been for going through that program at the tail end of 2019, honestly, everything that I was working to implement, or honestly, I don't think that I would have really been able to take the huge leaps that I did in my business during the pandemic and actually have the mindset to persist and keep going with everything else that was going on in the world. But it really changed my life and my business. And you can probably relate to this, Jamila, as business coaches and business strategists. A lot of times we're teaching our clients strategies and processes and things to help them grow their business, but it's often not necessarily the strategy. Well, it's a strategy that they're lacking, but even when we give them the strategy, for some reason, sometimes they're not implementing. And I was noticing, I'm like, okay, I have some clients, it's like they're taking it, they're doing so well, yay. But like, what's the difference between them and the other people? And I know that if I could bring to them the tools that, because, I say like attracts like, right? A lot of my clients were struggling with the same thing as me. Honestly, my true nature is an introvert. A lot of people don't believe that, because now, I've trained myself to be able to show up on camera and, perform when I need to, or, put it on when I need to. But really, I would much rather be behind the camera, and be the introvert and not show up and not do the things and just get the clients if I could. And a lot of my clients are the same way. And so they struggle a lot with a lot of, perfectionism, fear, and of putting themselves out there, fear of judgment, and, a lot of mindset things. And so I went through the life coach school to get the mindset coaching certification, because while I was bringing a mindset coach into my group program, I also knew that they can't wait next week or 2 weeks, in order to get the help that they need. And I wanted to be equipped with the tools to be like, okay, let's solve this now so that you can move forward. So yeah, I had just finished the certification program, I think like mid-October of 2021 of last year. Yeah.
Right. Love it. So you had all this going on in your life, and I know you were in a relationship at that time, or I'm guessing
Yeah.
you're still in that relationship. I'm
Yes,
like, I don't want to be revealing anything.
Yes, I'm still with my sweet guy. We've been together for 10 years. Somebody asked us this weekend. We just traveled to, Jamaica, and we met a lot of other cool couples that were hanging out. And they're like, how long have you been together? And honestly, I am not that girl who's just like, it's been 10 years since August 25th, 1991. Like, I am just not the one. I was sitting there thinking about it for a long time, but yeah, it's been 10 years. And so, but he's easy. He's good. So he's not work.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so you had all of this exciting things that were going on in your business, and then you had a health crisis.
Yeah.
So take us back to that moment, Sharell, when this unexpected thing occurred in your life.
Sure, absolutely. So literally, as I mentioned, I had just finished, certification through the life coach school. It was like, I think it was October 18th. And I was like knee deep in it, because I have like an obsessive personality. When I'm learning something new, I get excited, and I'm like watching all the videos, studying it, doing all the one-on-one coaching calls, and really, trying to get that experience. And also I was working on launching a brand new group coaching program at the end of last year. So I was kind of like knee deep in that as well, just like, I've got, half of it done. I can get the next half done like in the next 3 weeks. So I was busy, but I was excited, waking up early every single morning. It wasn't stress, because everybody's like, were you stressed? I'm like, no, I wasn't. It was like, I was excited, and I loved everything that I was working on. It was, to where I just couldn't sleep at night, and I was excited to get up in the morning. But so what happened was it was the weekend of November 5th. We had a dance competition. So as a side note, I'm actually a competitive West Coast swing dancer. So that's another thing that I have kind of going on. And I've been doing West Coast swing dancing for about 10 years. In fact, that's how I met my guy, was through dancing. And so we had an event that was coming up, and he was on staff. He's an event director. He's a DJ and things like that for the event. So he was on staff that weekend, and I normally don't go on a Friday night, but I decided, you know what, I was like, I'll just go ahead and go to the hotel, dance a little bit and chill. And so we were there at the event, and we were dancing late night. Like, I know people think it's weird, but we'll dance until 6 o'clock in the morning. Literally, if somebody is playing music, we don't stop dancing until the music. And literally, it's normally after the sun comes up. But so it was around 3:00 in the morning, dancing with a really good friend of mine. And we were coming up at the end of the song. I think we were about like 2 minutes and 45 seconds into like a 3-minute song. And then as I was dancing with him, it was just like, I just got really dizzy. I just remember kind of stopping and, just kind of seeing this wave of blackness. I kind of call it like fading to black, And I just said to him like, Dion, I feel really dizzy. And I remember just kind of like, I was kind of like bending over to put my hand on my knee to like catch myself. And that was the last memory that I had. And then 10 minutes later, I woke up, with EMS and about to be pulled out on a stretcher. And so what happened was I had a heart attack that then caused it put me into cardiac arrest because the heart attack caused me to go into what's called ventricle fibrillation. Basically, the heart is just like beating super fast with no rhythm. And so that put me into cardiac arrest. And by the grace of God, there were 3 of my friends, 3 dancers who were there who just happened to be nurses. One of them an ER nurse, one of them a cardiovascular ICU nurse, and the other one a nurse of 20 years. So I'm like, if it had to happen, it happened in the best possible place with the best possible people there.
Oh my goodness. So they were able to resuscitate you and take care of you until the actual ambulance had arrived.
Yeah, they ended up performing CPR for about 10 minutes. And then when I say, look, I don't know what everybody's belief is, but I am a believer. I am a believer in God. And, when I say that all the tools that were needed were there from, the time that it happened, the person that I was dancing with, I could have been dancing with anybody else in that room, any stranger. But, he caught me, kept me from falling and hitting the floor. Immediately he starts calling, he knew one of our friends was a nurse and he starts calling her. Somebody else walks up and he's like, oh no, don't you can't get rid of, I need a medical professional. She's like, and that was my first, she's like, I've been a nurse for 20 years. Like, and he's like, oh, okay, but like they had all the tools. So while they were performing CPR, there happened to be like someone who like, there are other medical professionals in there. So somebody brought them an AED. And so they ended up having to shock me, with a defibrillator a couple of times, to kind of bring me back. But they were able to get me back after about 10 minutes, and then 30 seconds later, the EMS, kind of walked in all casually, like, well, what's wrong? She's breathing. They're just like, don't even start, don't even.
Right, exactly. Right. You're doing all the work, bro.
Exactly. Like, we've done all the work for you. Yeah. And so I went to the emergency room, and it turned out that I had basically 4 of my arteries were between 60 to 95%, clogged. And so I would have to have a quadruple bypass surgery. And so had emergency surgery like 2 days later, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did you were you having any, because hindsight is 2020, right? Like, did you feel off? Did you feel like anything was going on? I mean, you're living a full life before all of this happened.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any, looking back now that you didn't see at the time, were there any signs you think that something was not right?
Oh yeah, 100%. But we kind of touched on it earlier, just we're also dealing with the pandemic at the same time. And I don't know about you, or people in your audience, but when the pandemic started, everything, dance was my kind of main form of exercise. I didn't love going to the gym. Now you can't get me to sit down anywhere, but I didn't really like to go, and I was like, okay, I'll go dance because that's a good form of cardio. But when the pandemic happened, the world, everything shut down, and I didn't start dancing, or, me and my guy, we didn't start really doing anything again until, until the vaccines came out, which was over a year later that we were able to get it, back in March of 2021, I think is when I got mine. So I was really sitting sedentary for a long time, for over a year. But I did start noticing about I would say around November of 2020. So I guess a year before this happened, I did start noticing some changes in my body. And the best way I could describe it is that I felt extremely out of shape. It was like, we're 9 months into the pandemic, been sitting, on my butt for 9 months now, not really doing much of anything. And I put on 25 pounds because, again, just sitting around doing nothing but eating.
Yeah. Yeah, I did too. About the exact same. Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
The pandemic pounds is what I like to call
exactly.
it. Right?
Yep. Pandemic pounds. Yeah.
So I definitely felt out of shape. And being concerned about that. And honestly, I had thoughts of like, because, I was like, did I develop, these thoughts were going through my head. I was like, did I develop heart disease, from being sedentary too long? I knew something was wrong. I actually called telehealth and I talked to them about some of my symptoms. It was also a little confusing because I was having like, what would happen was when I had some physical activity, I would feel like a burning in my chest. But I also, struggle with like acid reflux, heartburn. And so, I would call telehealth and it was like, okay, well, we think it's GERD or, it's, something related to heartburn. And a couple of nurses friends, in fact, one of the dancers who ended up being one of the ladies that saved my life, we're all hanging around that November because that was around election time. We're all hanging out. And I was telling them, I was like, y'all, I'm getting that pain in my chest again. Like I'm sitting there telling them, and, she's the CI, the cardiovascular nurse. And she's just like, what's going on? And then the other nurse was like, oh, she just has GERD, but now we're like hindsight 2020, like, man, if we would have dug a little deeper, she would have known something was wrong. But anyway, I went to the doctor, same thing. I told them, I was like, I feel like I'm out of shape. I'm feeling this burning sensation in my chest. And then the doctor just gave me like some statins because my cholesterol was elevated. She's like, here, take some cholesterol medicine and then, come back in 6 weeks. But, so yeah, I definitely felt something was going on. Nowhere did I think it was to the extent of what it actually was.
Yeah. So I'm sure you've learned a lot about heart health now that you know before, but like, what were they saying that creates your arteries getting clogged in that kind of way? Like, what are some of the common things that we should be aware of that might cause that happening?
Sure. Such a great question. And first and foremost, we can never neglect family history, and being aware of it. I know everybody doesn't have the privilege, because I do think it is a privilege for some people to have access to like their family, history. Maybe you don't, have access to certain, maybe one side or the other of your family. But like really being kind of aware, like, do you have a family history, of heart disease? I know with me, and I learned this after the fact, like my dad passed away of a heart attack at 42. I was 42 when I had my heart attack as well. Yeah. But I didn't know that until after the fact, when, once I kind of shared like what I went through. My cousin was like, girl, let's talk. Let me tell you about our side of the family, really, and so I found out like there's 17 aunts and uncles on that side. And like, half of them have had a bypass or a heart attack or something like that. I had no clue, I just didn't have access to that information at the time. So just, being aware of your family history so that you can really understand, like, are you genetically prone, for higher cholesterol, blood pressure, or anything like that, or any other sort of heart related diseases. But then also like, because mine was specifically cholesterol, and high cholesterol does run on that side of the family, really, avoiding foods that are going to, clog you up even more. So, trying to stay away from, like high, animal proteins. That's really where a lot of the cholesterol comes from, is animal fat. So, now I really kind of focus on like a really low cholesterol. I eat tofu, more vegetables, like fish, or healthy fish like, salmon or trout that have the good, kind of cholesterol in it. So, just trying to avoid that as well, and eating more vegetables and fruits. Like I always say, it's simple, like when we all know what to do, but sometimes it's like, unless something major happens, it's like we don't do it. But the last message I really do, well, one message that I'm really passionate about sharing with people is just that taking your medicine, because I've known that I've had high cholesterol since I was 25 years old, and my doctors would always, they would put me on medicine and I would take it for a little bit, but then I'm like, I'm going to fix it myself, right? I'm going to eat my vegetables and I'm going to eat right and I'm going to lose weight, and I went through that process of losing a lot of weight, doing all the things that I need to do. But no matter what I did, I could never get it to a healthy range. And I just think we have this stigma, about taking medicine. No one wants to be on medicine the rest of their life. But I'll tell you, just like my doctor told me that I wish I listened to, and he was completely right. It's just like, in my situation, that the medicine was literally keeping me from what happened. And because I refused to take the medicine consistently like I was supposed to, because I wanted to fix it myself, even though my body couldn't do it. It's not a matter of if something's going to happen, it's when. So it's just like, there's no shame in it. I can't stress that enough, Jamila. I'm just like, there's no shame. Like, it will keep you from going through, some of the hardest times that you would have to go through,
Yeah. So you go through this whole experience. I'm sure they had you do lots of therapy when you come out of the hospital. What was the thought process? Like, what was going on in your head at that time as you were thinking about coming out of this, and your own mindset about your road to recovery and how you were going to approach life from there forward?
That's such a good question. I don't think that anyone has ever asked me that. Good question. I will tell you, I think like maybe a lot of people, but I know for me, it was survival mode, right? Immediately it's just survival mode. Like, okay, I got to make it through the surgery. Like, I got to do what I can to make sure I don't get the blood clots or, have any of the post-surgical things that can necessarily happen to you. Like, I got to go walk 3 times a day. I got to go through cardio rehab. Everything was very like tactical and like in survival mode. And subconsciously, I think it really helped me through that process, because now like I'm in some support groups with a lot of people who have gone through sudden cardiac arrest and or bypass surgery. And a lot of people, they're depressed or they're having a really tough time kind of coping with it. And there's a lot of fear and anxiety. And I really didn't have that. I just felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude, if I can be honest with you. But I think actually a lot of that had to do with the fact that I had just finished certification through the Life Coach School. Like I said, I was like knee deep in the mindset work and thought management and thought work. And, so I feel like, again, I talk about God and his divine timing and, to me, how he perfectly orchestrated that whole situation that I went through. I don't think it's a coincidence that I had just gone through that process to be able to help me like mentally stay strong to go through that process. So at first it was just kind of like, okay, I need to do these things so that I can get better, so that I can survive, so that I can strengthen my body and physically. And then at some point I kind of hit a point like, what the heck did I just go through? Like, okay, I'm good now, I'm going to survive. What did I just go through?
It kind of hit you afterwards. I know for me, and having a health crisis of my own several years ago, it wasn't until after everything that was already done that I was like, whoa, like that's when I was like, yo, I need some therapy. Like, I can't believe.
Yes. Same here.
Yeah. Okay. After the fact. Yeah. I thought I was weird. Like I was like fine and like going through the experience, because it was like that mindset stuff kicked in, that mental toughness, that entrepreneurship gene that we have of like, always needing to pep yourself up and keep going, and you're focused on the strategy and what you have to do. But then after, it's like, whoa, like just kind of hits you. So what was it like for your business? So, because I mean, I know you had some people that were working with you, but essentially you're still, the breadwinner of the business, the lead in making everything happen. I'm imagining that things kind of came to a halt. Like, what was it like in the business going through this experience?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good question. I just have to tell you, Jamila, I'm so grateful to be here. I haven't had the opportunity to really talk about this yet. So, but I have to tell you, I feel like from a business standpoint, the business was in the best possible position that it could possibly be in for me to have to go through that situation. And so, Jamila, like, and I'm sure you talk to your clients and work with your clients about this as well, but like 2 things that really yeah, because I, like you said, it came to a complete halt. Like, I mean, I could not work. Literally, physically, I was in so much pain, like I was, connected to a heating pad 24/7, and my massage gun had got, for like the first 4 weeks. And then after that, I was like, okay, I may try to do a little bit of work, but honestly, like then I had to, like it was more the mental, like really from the medicine. It's like being lethargic and tired and not able to focus. So it was like mentally, it was like, okay, physically now I can work. Now mentally, I got to get kind of caught up as well. So it was a good 6 to 8 weeks where I was just like, okay, I really can't do what I was doing before. We're launching every 6 to 8 weeks and, really showing up like I had been. But I will tell you the two things that really got me through that time and even this continued time, because I still say like I'm saying like this is the year for like slow and spacious. Like that is my words of the year now. They've shifted. It's like it is slow and spacious, taking it easy, the year of the pause. But I had recurring revenue, from running a group program, and having extended payment plans that expand out over the course of a year. So having recurring revenue coming in every single month, even if I wasn't able to sell. So that really kind of took care of me from a monetary standpoint. I didn't really have to stress about money because the money was still coming in, and it gave me the spaciousness that I needed to be able to go slow. And then also by having a group program, then, there's that time leverage, the first couple of, group calls, some of my business friends, they stepped in, they're just like, hey, what can we do for you? Do you want me to do a call? Hey, I bet, our best friends, they'll show up for us. So it's just like, I had people, coming in and doing calls, inside of my programs, for like the first maybe like month, so that my clients still felt supported and like that they were taken care of and getting what they needed. But then also because I do have a leverage program to where it's not, all, really any one-on-one work, like when I did like physically feel better, to do our office hours call, I could do the group call. It was manageable. It was like, it's 1 hour or 90 minutes, a week. I mean, that's manageable, in healing. I'm not working 40 hours a week. Right. So I think, the two main things that really supported me through this time, because I'm not going to say that it's ended. I mean, it's still a process, but it's having the recurring revenue and having the leverage, inside of my business to be able to like step back. So whereas, normally it'd be like, okay, client facing activity, maybe, an hour to 90 minutes, a week, but then it was like, well, the other 30 hours a week are spent on the business, doing the marketing and stuff. I'm like, can we pause all of that and let me just show up for my clients that I have now and then kind of go from there.
Yeah. Love that. Love that. Man, it's just amazing to be able to have a business that's set up in that way in the first place, right? That you have like those two key factors, the recurring revenue and also having a group formatted program where it's not so dependent upon you or the amount that you're doing the client delivery. I'm always saying to, my clients and even our community here, Breadwinning Women, is like, listen, if you're doing more than like 10 hours of delivery a week, like something's wrong, right? Like it should not be, those that old saying, the chief cook and bottle washer.
Yeah. And bathroom cleaner, right?
Right. They probably mean the chef, the cook, and the bottle washer, right?
Right.
So I love that you had that in place. And so how are things going now? So what were some of the things that you started putting into place to be able to get on the road to recovery?
Yes, great questions. Great question again. So, through this, I think when you go through something, and Jamila, I'm sure you can relate because, I know you've when you went through your health crisis as well. Like if you go through some major, health crisis or near-death experience, it is life-changing. Everything changes, right? But with us being, probably the entrepreneurs that we are, I know when I had that 6 weeks, well, the first 4 weeks where I was really, really like, I just got to sit here because like I physically can't do anything, but my mind didn't stop working, And so, I was having and I'm not a woo person, so to use this word download is different for me, but I was having like all the downloads, right? Like from messaging and how to shift my messaging about things, and really just kind of like, and new positioning and aligned purpose. Because as I mentioned before, when all this happened, I was knee deep in, working on, creating this new program that I plan to launch. And going through this process, it kind of shifted the positioning and messaging around it, because all the program is all about like leverage, recurring revenue, and scale. And I'm like, well, I am proof of how and why it's important, and why it's needed, and how it works, and how it can work for you in your business. And so I would just say for me, it's really shifted my messaging a lot, and how I want to communicate to business owners, the importance of having that leverage and recurring revenue inside of their business. And so where I'm at now is that program, that I intended to launch, at the end of the year, at the end of last year, I'm working to launch it in the fall. Again, I got a little excited, Jamila, because I think that's what we do. Come March, I was like, okay, I am ready.
Right.
Full speed ahead. I started planning a launch. I literally even started running my Facebook ads, because I'm like, I'm about to launch. But then I went out on one of my daily walks, and it just hit me like, Sharell, you're trying to do too much too soon. Like, why? And I think it's because what we're used to do, like going full speed ahead. And then honestly, I went home that day and I pulled all my ads down. I changed my email, like we're changing this date. And I feel like I got to take it slow. So right now I'm just working slowly, give myself the spaciousness that I need to work on, this next launch for this program, to put it out there when I really feel like, okay, really ready to show up fully. So that'll be launching in the fall. And I'm really excited about that, because I've really taken a lot of time to focus on it and make sure that I do it right.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because I feel like I've been present to this lately in my life, that there's a thing, and I think it's specifically with women of color, and even more specifically with Black women, where we have been groomed or trained to be strong and push through. And I cannot tell you how much in my life, and I'm curious if people were saying this to you, that kind of the way that we uplift each other is like, well, you're so strong. You got to keep being strong. And it's like, yo, I just overcame like a quadruple like if that, like they resuscitated my ass. If that's not being strong, then I don't know what is. Right.
Yes.
I'm just curious about like how, I love that you just said like, you know what, I'm going to do this for me. I don't need to go fast. And there's another type of being strong, which is saying no and doing something later.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear your perspective on that and some of the messages that you heard in this process.
Yes, 100%. Oh my goodness. I have goosebumps right now. Like just the fact that you brought that up, because I've been having a conversation with myself lately. I'm like, I don't even know if I like the word strong anymore. Like, is that really a compliment? We
Right.
mean that we mean that as a compliment, but like that's almost like it's a point of pressure too. Because yes, I did. I definitely felt that. And that might be, I think that plays into kind of what we were talking about earlier about how we were just, we're in survival mode, got to do this. We're focused on all the tactical, all the things that we need to do. And then all of a sudden we're like, what the heck? Like, like what is going on? What did I just went through? Right. And you talked about therapy. And I think a lot of that it was because I felt like I had to put on this strong face for people, not only because people were telling me that, and Jamila, oh my God, I'm really going to go there with you. Yeah. The things that we say again to be supportive, like there's, people are like, Sharell, you just went through that process and you survived, God put you on earth to do big things and to have this great purpose. And, like, you can't waste this second chance, like all these words where, people mean to be, they mean it from a good place, but all of that kind of goes along with that whole be strong, like you're strong thing, because I felt literally the weight of the world. And I felt like I had to go from like a survivor and it was self-imposed. I was like, well, to me, a survivor sounds victim-y, like, so I'm an advocate, which is okay, because, I do want to be a heart health advocate, but I didn't have to be it 2 weeks after I just trauma, and I'm like, I'm out here trying to save the world, and I'm like, I need to save myself.
Right.
And so I did go through that, like I said, around March, where I was like, okay, I'm ready to go full, and that's when I was like, no, Sharell, stop. Why do you feel like you have to do this right now? Like, it's okay to take, like you said, like you just almost died. You just went through open heart surgery. It's okay to take it slow. And that's when I really, as you were talking about earlier too, really started going through therapy, because I was like, okay, yeah, the mindset got me through that to help me be positive and stuff. But let's face it, mindset life coaching is very different than therapy in dealing with trauma and PTSD. And so I started going through EMDR therapy, which is kind of like a process that they use. And that has really shifted a lot for me as well. So yeah, I'm like, I want to break up with this word strong, or,
let's end it. It's over between us.
Yes.
Things ain't working out.
It's not. I'm like, let's break up, throw it away. Let's find some other, honestly, it would have probably done me better if somebody would have came like Sharell. It's okay to just want to sit there and not do anything. It's okay to just want to focus on yourself right now. It's okay to feel like you're weak. It's okay to cry. You don't have to put on a strong face for me. So yeah, it's interesting.
Listen, don't that just make you to just feel like you can release and not be on and have to have everything figured out and all the answers and making the next moves and all that stuff. And I'll share very candidly, for me, going through the experience of having cancer, what made me feel like I needed therapy after was that pressure of like, oh, God spared my life and now I got to do something big and meaningful. That pressure was like, well, damn, am I doing it? I don't know what exactly that is. What am I supposed to go into Mother Teresa mode? Like, I don't know what the heck is supposed to happen with my life. And that pressure, and a lot of it was self-imposed, but also coming out of this be strong, you got this culture, that's what took me to therapy. I was like, listen, I need to figure this out.
100%. Because it's just like, can I be around somebody who doesn't expect me to be strong? Can I be around somebody? Like, can I just put my thumb on my mouth and cry like a baby and them just be okay with it? I relate, resonate, understand completely, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
How has this experience made you think about your business differently, especially when it comes to, succession planning or having certain paperwork in place? I'm sure it sparked a lot of ideas. What adjustments have you already made, or what are some of the things that you're thinking about?
Yes. Oh, such a good question. Because that's what we don't think about. A lot of us are solopreneurs, or, we may have some teammates and things like that, but we're really the main ones who are kind of running our business. Like, we got the main passwords, everybody's on LastPass and things like that, So yeah, it really was an eye opener. And I want to share this story because I thought it was so odd at the time. During one of my launches that I did previously, someone who ended up being a client, but as they were going through the launch, one of their questions that they asked me was like, so what happens if something happens to you? And I just thought that was the oddest question. I was like, no one has ever asked me that. And I'm just like, well, your program ends, you don't pay anymore, or you can decide to do X, Y, Z, but, and I'm like, wow. And again, we just don't really think that something's really going to happen. But so, yeah, it definitely has me like, some of the processes that I put in place now is like the whole access thing. I can't be, the only person who knows, like, okay, who has access to, my Facebook group to notify my clients that something has happened, or to stop payments, on people's account if there's no longer a group program, or to be able to go in and, access the business accounts and things like that. So I've put some processes in place now and designated, someone to be responsible. So like, okay, if something happens, here's what you need to do, go in and notify these people, go in, here's how you access my logins to be able to access my accounts. And honestly, I'm even working with an attorney now. We're still going through the process because, again, slow and spacious. I probably, like, I'm like, oh, we're going through the whole, she's a probate attorney, but we're putting like a lot of the documentation and things in place as far as like access and allocations and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, we have to go beyond, even though, even if you do have a solo based business now, I mean, even putting something simple in place where it's like, okay, this is like, this person knows how to access your account and who to contact in case something happens. It can be that simple, but I didn't even really have that in place because, to be honest, we don't think anything's going to happen,
Yeah, you don't. It's like you hear of things happening to people, but it's like a out there kind of thing, like not. And then, we're still so young. So you definitely don't think, you're like, oh, well, of course, when I'm of a certain age, which is like, whatever, 20 years from now, then I'll have to think about those things. But you never, ever anticipate at this phase of life having to have those kinds of considerations at all whatsoever. I'm sure even you and your sweetheart have had conversations now that what was one of the biggest insights that you took away there in terms of something that you guys have changed or put in place in the relationship with going through this health crisis?
Yeah, well, so here's the funny thing, like, I don't know if this is with a lot of, I guess diseases, but I'm like, a sense of impending doom is a symptom that's also correlated with people have a sense of impending doom prior to like heart attacks or cardiac arrest, where they just feel like something is going to go, terribly wrong. And I had that feeling for about 6 months. Like I kept telling CJ, like, that whole thing that my doctor said, it's not if, it's when. That thought just kept coming through my head. And I would tell him certain things. So like a couple of weeks before it happened, I literally wrote down all of my passwords, but I wrote down my personal. I didn't even think about the business stuff, but I had wrote down all my passwords. And it's funny because I can show you now, because he didn't want it, because like we're both very private, we like respect privacy and this and that. And so he didn't want me to give it to him. But on this little Post-it note here, you can't even see it. But I wrote down like all my main passwords to everything, and then like the password keeper where I keep the password so he could go and explain all that stuff to him. And he was like, okay, just put it in your drawer so I can access it. But I mean, because again, we don't think about that. So for me, again, it's the whole access thing, because again, we don't think anything is going to happen. Like, we got these passcodes on our phones, we've got everything is locked up and stored away. But I know for he and I, we had to just really have that conversation about, it's more like access. It's like, okay, here is all of my information, everything that you're going to need. And as I'm working through the stuff with the attorney too, putting stuff in on paper and documentation for him. And even me saying, to him, like, okay, I need this information from your family in case something happens. Because, he ended up having to call my brother at 3:00 in the morning, that I'm in the ER. That's the only number he had. He didn't have my mom or my sister. So it was like, it's like, you don't think about that. So just talking about, I think it's just more like access to information, not just logins, but even like key points of contact that they need to be in touch with.
Yeah, so key. It's funny. I gave my boyfriend, I don't know, at some point last year, my mom and dad's, telephone number to just, have it, but not necessarily, more for other reasons. Like, hey, bro, when are we getting this situation?
Right. Yeah.
You need to have my parents' information, right? So,
yeah.
But even still, it's important in general. I said that to him because he actually went through a health crisis and had some blood clots. And then I was like, man, I know all your siblings. I know everybody, but I don't know how to reach them. I would have to try to go through Facebook to get it, which is absolutely crazy. So you're back now. Looks like I've seen you back now, competitive swing dancing again, or have you gotten started back with I don't know if you're competing, but I saw that you were actually dancing again.
Yeah, I'm back dancing. I haven't competed yet. I went to a dance competition, but again, I think it's back to the whole, like, just like, I just want to enjoy life, like, and really just like live it to the fullest. And of course, there is some certain amount of pressure and, and responsibility that comes with as a competitor. And so I'll go to competitions and I will literally just dance every single night until 6 o'clock in the morning, until the lights come on, and just enjoy and savor every moment, every song, every dance. So yeah, I'm back to, going to those, to the events and stuff, but it's just like, I don't know, it's an entirely different level of like enjoyment now,
I can imagine. So what would you share, Sharell, for other women in terms of being on top of, their heart health, or even thinking about their life a little bit differently as a business owner with your health as with respect to, being the breadwinner, being the one who's, bringing in the income?
Such a great question again. So I would say, I mean, first and foremost, you as a business owner, you have to prioritize your health, not even from a standpoint of, or I'll just say from a standpoint of actually taking care of yourself, putting good foods into your body, moving every single day. Cause that's one thing that I've changed, that I feel like, what was going to happen to me was going to happen eventually. Like Jamila said, I thought it would happen like 20 years from now, not now. But I think if I didn't make any changes at some point, it was gonna happen. But I think being sedentary during the pandemic accelerated that a lot. And so I know I still have some friends who are just like, they don't leave the house because, they don't feel comfortable yet. And that's fine. And they'll tell me they've put on all this weight, but guys, we got to move our body. If there's one thing that I do every single day is I will go for my 4-mile walk. I did it this morning. It's 100 degrees out here in Texas. Okay. and if I could get up and go walk at 7 o'clock in the morning, so I can kind of catch the tail end of 76 degrees, and I'll go walk my 4 miles every single day. But we've got to move our bodies. We've got, to really keep building your heart muscle. But on the other side of that, besides like putting good food into your body and moving your body, prioritizing those doctor's appointments, because as business owners, again, I feel like, all the excuses in the book, and that's part of like when I say that I want to shift into like advocacy, is like real talk about what other people don't want to admit. Yeah, I didn't take my medicine like I was supposed to. Part of it was just because I had to go to the doctor to go get a prescription refill, and I was busy. And it was like, I'm going to go in 2 weeks after I finish this project. And then after 2 weeks, it'll be like, I'm going to go in 2 more weeks. Next, 2 weeks has been 3 years, and I haven't taken my medicine in 3 years, right? So like we oftentimes as business owners, we're putting everything else first. We're putting our businesses first, our clients first, and even our families. When we get off of work, we put them first. And so we always come last, but all of that's doesn't matter if you don't have your health, because you're not going to be able to, you're not going to have your business. You're not going to have anything. You may not be here. So please just make it a priority to, just to put your health first, so that everything else can work the way that you need it to work. And then from a business standpoint, like I said, the reasons why I've been able to have this slow and spacious year, my year of the big pause, is because of all of the things that I put in place before this happened. Putting recurring revenue in my business that will sustain me, a long period of time to give myself, the spaciousness that I really need to heal. And then also looking at ways that you can add leverage to your business, because even if you are a service provider, because I work with some corporate clients as well, like even if you are a service provider, having some sort of leverage offering in your business, a high level group program, high end group program, something like that. So that if you can't even do the one-on-one, it's like you likely still have the capacity to do something that's leveraged. So just thinking about those two things in your business, just in case anything should ever happen. And honestly, even if nothing happens, it's just a great business model anyway. So
yeah, wonderful. Well, this has been amazing, Sharell. I'm so thankful for, number one, your recovery, your journey, the fact that you can be on the other side of this and be able to share the story with women who need to hear it, who are making small decisions. Just in what you were saying, I was thinking about how there's been times in my own entrepreneurial journey where I'm overworking, right? Like it's still, 8, 9, 10 o'clock, and I'm still putting in the work. And particularly in the pandemic, it was because what else am I gonna do?
Yeah.
Like, there's no nightlife, there's no,
It's true.
going to a friend's house for dinner or any of that stuff that was going on. And so it was like, well, what else am I going to do? And so I would just spend all this additional time working. And now I'm at a point where, I'm able to turn it off, by 6 o'clock, or if I have a late call, maybe 7, and I don't feel bad about not getting back on the computer.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm just hearing what you're saying. And I love, this is so true to your level of skill and talent. You've even branded the year of the pause.
Yep. The year of the pause.
Right. And got a whole mantra around it,
Yep.
but it's just making me think about, man, how can I continue to get better? I have been, on the days that it's nice, going for daily walks, but now you're making me think, I wonder, I feel like I'm doing at least a mile and a half, but you are up to 4 miles. I feel like I need to pick it up a little bit.
Get up, girl. Let those endorphins kick in. I'm telling you, it is the best. When those endorphins kick in, it is the best feeling in the world. I really did not used to love walking, but I mean, it is the best feeling in the world. Now it's my favorite part of the day. It's like, it just becomes habit.
Are you back in the gym or no? Is that not safe for you to go back to the gym yet?
No, I don't. I was never like a gym person. And I think for me, it helps me. And so my boyfriend, people always ask him like, oh, how's Sharell? And, is she getting excited? I'm like, Sharell will walk. Listen, when it snowed, when we had the ice storms, I was outside walking. When it's raining, I put on my little rain jacket and I'm out there walking. He had to come rescue me one day because it was like, it really started storming. He had to come pull over the side of the road and come get me. I was stuck under somebody's patio when it's 100 degrees. So for me, it just helps me to be outside and see the sun. And so I don't go to the gym. I just do like for resistance training. I have barbells and, things like that. So I just kind of do it outside.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I just want to thank you for coming on the show, sharing your story, sharing the transformation that you're going through. There's so many nuggets. I mean, I hope you took some notes because there's so many nuggets that were shared today from your story. And it's just like really a blessing. And I'm just thankful to have you as a friend and thankful to continue to see you blossom through this and whatever may come as you continue to go along this journey and heal your heart. I like to think of it as you really putting heart back into your business, right? And a newfound love and self-care that you have found for yourself. So congratulations to you and being able to make this happen.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jamila. That means the world to me. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to really talk about the journey that I've gone through in this form. And as it relates to business, I think it's such an important topic. So when you reached out to me, I was so excited. I was like, we need to share this message. So thank you for having me here. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Be a breadwinner, you can be a breadwinner. Girl, go and get that, you can achieve that. Be a breadwinner, you can be a breadwinner. Girl, go and get that, you can achieve that. Daily success, daily success. Plan a week ahead, be excellent. Be a breadwinner, you can be a breadwinner. Girl, go achieve your goals. Transform your life, one routine at a time. Daily success, daily success. Go and get yours. You better go get yours. Be a breadwinner, you can be a breadwinner. Girl, go and get that, you can achieve that. Be a breadwinner, you can be a breadwinner. Girl, go and get that, you can achieve